There's a thief living inside your mind right now, and every single day this thief is stealing your dreams, your potential, and your future. The worst part? You probably don't even know it's there. This thief has a name. It's called small thinking, and today I'm going to show you how to kick it out forever. I remember sitting in my apartment when I was 25 years old, broke, embarrassed, and wondering what went wrong with my life. I had big dreams when I was younger. I wanted to be successful, wealthy, make a difference in the world. But there I was, barely making ends meet, working a job I hated, living paycheck to paycheck. Then one day, my mentor asked me a question that changed everything. He said, "Jim, let me ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, what do you think about? When you're driving to work, what's going through your mind? When you go to bed at night, what are you focused on?" I started to answer, but he stopped me. He said, "Let me guess. You're thinking about your bills, your problems, what you don't have, what's going wrong. Am I right?" I nodded. He was absolutely right. Then he said something I'll never forget. "That's your problem. You're thinking small, and small thinking produces small results. If you want your life to change, you've got to start thinking bigger than you've ever thought before." At first, I didn't understand what he meant. I thought success was about working harder, getting lucky, knowing the right people. But he taught me something that day that transformed my entire life. He taught me that everything begins with a thought. And the size of your thoughts determines the size of your results. Let me explain what I mean. Right now, there are two people living in the same city, working in the same industry, with access to the same opportunities. One person is making $30,000 a year and struggling. The other person is making $300,000 a year and thriving. Same city, same opportunities, completely different results. Why? It's not because one person is smarter than the other. It's not because one got lucky and the other didn't. It's because one person thinks big and the other thinks small. That's it. That's the difference. The person making $30,000 is thinking, "How can I get through this month? How can I pay my bills? I hope I don't lose my job." Small thinking, survival thinking, problem-focused thinking. The person making $300,000 is thinking, "How can I create more value? How can I serve more people? What can I build that will make a real difference?" Big thinking, growth thinking, opportunity-focused thinking. See the difference? Your thoughts create your reality. If you think small, you live small. If you think big, you live big. It's that simple. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Jim, I've got real problems. I've got bills to pay. I've got responsibilities. I can't just think big and expect everything to magically change. You're right. Thinking big isn't magic. But here's what it does do. It opens your mind to possibilities you never saw before. It gives you ideas you never had before. It creates opportunities that didn't exist before. Let me give you an example. When I was broke, I used to walk past expensive cars and think, "I'll never be able to afford something like that." That's small thinking. It closed my mind to possibilities. It kept me stuck. But when I started thinking bigger, I started asking different questions. Instead of saying I can't afford that, I started asking, how could I afford that? What would I need to do? What value would I need to create? Who would I need to become? See the difference? One closes doors, the other opens them. And here's what happened. As soon as I started asking better questions, I started getting better answers. Ideas started flowing, opportunities started appearing. People started showing up in my life who could help me. Within a few years, everything changed. Not because of magic, but because I changed the way I was thinking. Now let me share with you some principles about thinking big that will transform your life if you apply them. First principle, your income is directly tied to the value you bring to the marketplace. If you want to earn more, you've got to become more valuable. And becoming more valuable starts with thinking bigger about what you can offer. Most people think small about their value. They think, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But that's exactly the kind of thinking that keeps you stuck. Think about this. Every major company, every successful business, every breakthrough innovation started with one person who thought big. Apple started with Steve Jobs thinking bigger than anyone else about what a computer could be. Microsoft started with Bill Gates thinking bigger about software. Amazon started with Jeff Bezos thinking bigger about retail. Were they smarter than everyone else? Maybe, maybe not. But they definitely thought bigger. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be a genius to think big. You just have to be willing to expand your vision beyond where it is right now. Second principle. Small thinking attracts small people and small opportunities. Big thinking attracts big people and big opportunities. Have you ever noticed that successful people hang around other successful people? That's not a coincidence. Like attracts like. When you start thinking bigger, you naturally gravitate toward people who think big, and those people bring opportunities with them. When I was thinking small, I surrounded myself with people who complained about the economy, blamed the government, made excuses for why they couldn't get ahead. And you know what? I stayed stuck. But when I started thinking bigger, I started attracting different people into my life. People who were doing things, building things, creating things. And being around those people elevated my thinking even more. If you want to change your life, change your thinking. And if you want to change your thinking, change who you spend time with. Third principle. Big thinking requires you to get comfortable with discomfort. Here's what most people don't understand. When you start thinking bigger, your current circumstances are going to feel even more uncomfortable. Because now you can see the gap between where you are and where you could be. A lot of people give up at this point. They think, this isn't working. I'm thinking big, but nothing's changing. So they go back to thinking small because it's more comfortable. But that's exactly the wrong move. That discomfort is actually a sign that you're growing. It means your mind is expanding. It means you're seeing possibilities you couldn't see before. Don't run from that discomfort. Lean into it. I remember when I first started setting bigger goals for myself. I felt ridiculous. I felt like a fraud. I thought, who am I to think I can achieve something like that? But my mentor told me, Jim, that feeling is normal. Everyone who's ever done something significant felt that way at first. The difference is, they didn't let that feeling stop them. So I kept thinking big. I kept setting bigger goals. I kept visualizing a better future. And slowly but surely, my reality started to catch up with my thinking. Fourth principle. Big thinking must be followed by big action. Now this is important. Thinking big isn't enough by itself. You can't just sit around daydreaming about success and expect it to show up at your door. Thinking big is the starting point, but action is what makes it real. The reason thinking big is so powerful is because it inspires you to take bigger action. When you think small, you take small action. You do the minimum. You play it safe. You don't want to risk failure. But when you think big, you're willing to take bigger risks. You're willing to try new things. You're willing to fail and learn and try again. Because now you have a vision that's bigger than your fear. I've seen people set big goals and then do nothing about them. They say they want to be millionaires, but they're not willing to learn new skills. They say they want to be successful, but they're not willing to work harder than they're working now. That's not thinking big. That's just wishing. Real big thinking inspires massive action. It gets you out of bed earlier. It keeps you up later. It makes you read more, learn more, do more. Because you're so excited about where you're going that you can't wait to get there. Fifth principle. Thinking big means thinking long term. Most people think in terms of weeks and months. Successful people think in terms of years and decades. That's a massive difference. If you're only thinking about this week, you make short-term decisions that don't serve your long-term future. You spend money you should be investing. You waste time you should be learning. You settle for convenient instead of pushing for excellent. But when you think long term, everything changes. You start making better decisions. You start sacrificing short term pleasure for long term gain. You start building something that lasts. I always tell people, don't judge your progress by what happens this week. Judge it by what happens over the next 5 years. Because success isn't an event, it's a process. And big thinking gives you the patience to see that process through. Now let me tell you about the biggest enemy of big thinking. It's not lack of talent. It's not lack of opportunity. It's not even lack of resources. The biggest enemy of big thinking is the opinions of small-minded people. When you start thinking big, people are going to doubt you. They're going to question you. They're going to tell you to be realistic. They're going to list all the reasons why it won't work. And here's why. Your big thinking makes them uncomfortable. Because if you succeed, it proves that they could have succeeded too. And they don't want to face that reality. So they try to pull you back down to their level. You have to be ready for this. You have to protect your big thinking from small-minded people. You have to surround yourself with people who encourage you, not discourage you. I remember when I told people I was going to become financially successful. Some people laughed. Some people said I was being unrealistic. Some people told me I should just accept my situation and be grateful for what I had. If I had listened to those people, I'd still be broke today. But I didn't. I kept thinking big. I kept working toward my vision. And eventually, I proved them all wrong. Not because I wanted to prove anything to them, but because I refused to let their small thinking limit my big thinking. Here's another critical point about thinking big. It's not just about money or success or achievement. It's about becoming the person you're capable of becoming. See, most people live their entire lives never discovering who they really are or what they're really capable of. They accept the limitations that other people place on them. They believe the lies that society tells them. They settle for a fraction of what they could be. But when you think big, you start asking yourself, what am I really capable of? What could I achieve if I gave it everything I've got? What kind of person could I become if I committed to constant growth? Those questions change everything. Because now it's not just about external success, it's about internal transformation. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be. I've met millionaires who think small. They've got money, but they're miserable. They're successful on the outside, but empty on the inside. That's not real success. Real success is when your external achievements match your internal growth, when you become someone who deserves the success you've achieved. And that only happens when you think big about who you are, not just what you have. Let me share something practical with you. If you want to start thinking bigger, here's what you need to do. First, write down your current goals. Whatever they are, be honest. Now, multiply each goal by 10. If your goal is to make $50,000 this year, make it $500,000. If your goal is to lose 10 pounds, make it 100. If your goal is to read 1 book this month, make it 10. I know what you're thinking. That's crazy. That's impossible. Good. That's exactly the point. You need to shock your mind out of its small thinking patterns. Now here's what happens. When you set a goal that's 10 times bigger than your current goal, you can't achieve it doing what you're currently doing. You have to think differently. You have to act differently. You have to become a different person. And that's where the magic happens. That's where growth happens. That's where transformation happens. You might not hit that 10 times goal. That's okay. But even if you hit half of it, you're still 5 times further than you would have been with your original small thinking goal. Second thing you need to do, study big thinkers. Read their books. Listen to their speeches. Learn how they think. You'll notice something interesting. Successful people don't think about problems the way unsuccessful people do. When they face an obstacle, they don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? What opportunity is hidden in this challenge? That's big thinking. That's seeing possibilities where others see problems. Third thing, take one big action this week. Not tomorrow, not next month, this week. Do something that scares you a little bit. Make that phone call you've been putting off. Start that project you've been thinking about. Have that conversation you've been avoiding. Apply for that opportunity you think you're not ready for. Big thinking without action is just daydreaming. But big thinking with action, that's when miracles happen. Let me tell you what's going to happen when you start thinking bigger. At first, nothing will change externally. Your bank account will be the same, your circumstances will be the same, your situation will look exactly like it did before. This is where most people quit. They think, see, this doesn't work. Thinking big is just motivational nonsense. But here's what they don't understand. The external changes take time, but the internal changes happen immediately. As soon as you start thinking bigger, you become a different person. Your energy changes, your confidence changes, your decision-making changes, and those internal changes eventually create external results. It's not instant, but it's inevitable. I've seen it happen thousands of times. Someone starts thinking bigger. At first, nothing happens. But they keep at it. They keep thinking big. They keep taking action. They keep growing. Then, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, suddenly everything is different. New opportunities appear, new people show up, new possibilities emerge. And they look back and realize that it all started the day they decided to think bigger. That could be you. Today could be that day. Now, let me address something important. Some people think that thinking big means being unrealistic. They think it means ignoring reality and living in a fantasy world. That's not what I'm talking about. Thinking big doesn't mean being delusional. It means being visionary. Delusional people ignore reality. Visionary people see reality clearly, but they also see what reality could become. They understand where they are, but they refuse to stay there. They accept their current circumstances without accepting them as permanent. That's the key. You have to be honest about where you are right now, but you also have to be ambitious about where you're going. Think about the great achievements in human history. Flying was impossible until the Wright brothers thought bigger. Going to the moon was impossible until Kennedy thought bigger. Building a computer that fits in your pocket was impossible until Steve Jobs thought bigger. Every major breakthrough in history started with someone thinking bigger than everyone else thought was possible. Why not you? Why not now? You have the same brain as every successful person who's ever lived. You have access to the same information, the same opportunities, the same possibilities. The only difference is how you choose to think. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, commit to thinking bigger than you've ever thought before. Not just for a day, not just for a week, but as a permanent way of life. When you catch yourself thinking small, stop and ask yourself, what would the bigger version of me think about this situation? Then think that thought instead. When you catch yourself setting small goals, stop and ask yourself, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Then set that goal instead. When you catch yourself playing it safe, stop and ask yourself, what would I do if I was truly committed to becoming everything I'm capable of becoming? Then do that instead. This is how you reprogram your mind for success. This is how you break free from small thinking. This is how you tap into the magic of thinking big. And I promise you this. If you commit to thinking bigger every single day, your life will transform in ways you can't even imagine right now. Opportunities will appear that weren't there before. People will show up who can help you. Ideas will come to you that never occurred to you before. Not because of magic, but because you've opened your mind to possibilities that were always there, you just couldn't see them when you were thinking small. The magic of thinking big isn't about changing your circumstances, it's about changing you. And when you change, everything changes. So what are you waiting for? Your bigger life is waiting for you. But it won't come to you. You have to think your way into it. You have to act your way into it. You have to become the person who deserves to live it. Start today. Think bigger. Dream bigger. Act bigger. Become bigger. Because you're capable of so much more than you're currently experiencing. You're capable of so much more than you currently believe. You're capable of living a life that's 10 times, 100 times bigger than the one you're living now. But it all starts with one decision. The decision to think big. Make that decision right now, and watch what happens. Your future self will thank you for it.